Each morning, real RSI setups are broken down with entry strategies and the technical reasoning behind every trade. This is RSI Trade of the Day with Verified Investing.
Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing, and we had some good movers yesterday. One of the movers was IREN. I'm going to go ahead and go over that chart a little bit later, but had this great move to the upside, had about a 10% pullback, and then the markets just started floating, or at least the buyers stepped up in droves for IREN. I have some great technical levels. I still think IREN has quite a bit further to go. Based on some technicals that I'm watching, it's still in an uptrend. The RSI, although it is above 70, again, it still has further upside. Before we get into that, though, let's go ahead and go into the RSI recap. Yesterday, we had talked about MU, so we had put in a topping tail, and I had mentioned that during the broadcast, that it was a great opportunity to short right there, which was actually before my trade of the day. And the reason I had mentioned that was this was further than a 50% Fibonacci retracement of a topping tail. And I was playing this for a day trade, but I had mentioned that MU was a potential swing trade as well. So let's just go ahead and go into the chart of MU for the RSI recap. Oh, I'm not sure why there we go. All right. MU had this nice move up. Let's switch to the daily time frame on MU. Put in this beautiful topping tail. I had mentioned that a 201 level would be a stop out on a daily closing basis. And then I was saying, okay, well, if it gets back up to $200 on a day trade or a day trade basis, this is where I would short. And I had actually mentioned this in the live day trading room that I'm looking at MU at a possible short at a $10 or $200 Pierce. And then I was going to ride this down for a little bit. I wasn't going to take a full 7-8% on this, but I was looking for a decent downside move, at least about a 3% move. However, I'd mentioned on a swing trade basis, when price action was pre-market, it was about $197. And I said, hey, look, I'm looking for a minimum downside target of $181.28. And that's a swing trade, meaning that it doesn't necessarily going to happen today. And then I've got a further downside target for a swing trade basis at $157.27. So ultimately, that's playing out as a swing trade. It didn't play out for my day trade, and that's okay because I like the charts of MU for a move on the downside. IRBT is another stock that I'm looking at. Go to this daily time frame. You've got this nice wedge pattern. What I like about this wedge pattern is you've got this beautiful RSI pattern where you've got this nice U shape. RSI is staying pretty strong, staying above the 50. Every time it gets below the 50, it gets to the 40, price action then continues higher. And you notice that you were still in an uptrend. So you've got this first hit, second hit, third hit with the RSI continuing stronger. If we can get a break on IRBT above this downsloping trend line, you've got another move to the upside. You've got to move to about the $6.30 level. So from its current price and in the pre-market, you're looking for another 47% to the upside. Now, if you're a little bit more conservative and you want to wait for a move all the way down to this upsloping trend line, so that way you have a stop out level below this upsloping trend line, you could do that as well. Or if you wanted to be even more conservative, wait for a pierce of this upsloping trend line and then wait for a retrace. And then you can look for the move to the upside. Right now, we're in a little bit of a consolidation phase, but ultimately the RSI, this indicator is telling me that price action is likely to go higher. So ACHR is another one that we had been looking at for a couple of days. I'm a little bit disappointed in this. I actually thought that we were going to get a break above this downsloping trend line and then a pierce of this $13.37 level. Then since that price action, we got a huge rejection. Now we're trading at $11.80. Now that price action is below this $12.54 level that I had given you yesterday, this is more of a potential sell-off opportunity. If we can get the relative strength index right below the 50 again, depending on where ACHR is, could be another opportunity to pick this up for a long trade. or if you can get a break above this down sloping trend line, a little bit more of a move back to the upside in the RSI, then you're likely to head up to $16.55. I still ultimately like the chart of ACHR for a move higher, but we're going to need a little bit more confirmation above a couple different trend lines. Again, for me, I was waiting for consolidation in between this $13.37 and the $12.54, which looked like it was going to happen yesterday. However, it decided it wanted to continue lower today. SMTC, I had mentioned a couple days ago, you've got this upside target of $75.75. This to me is a great shortable level. If it gets up to this level, I will take a short today. The RSI is heading a little bit lower. Price action, though, is continuing lower as well. So it's not giving me a negative RSI divergence. However, the RSI did peak above the 75 and then getting a little bit of a pullback. So it is staying a little bit weaker. It can get up to $78.89. However, if it gets up there, that would be a shortable level for a swing trade. Okay. Another stock that I'm looking at is Hood. So Hood's kind of an interesting chart. So you've got this beautiful upsloping trend line that connects these pivot highs right here, and then price action got above it. So if we can get price below this level, then we've got this upsloping trend line right here that price action needs to get to as well. So ultimately, the RSI is indicating that we're in an overbought condition, and so we're due for a pullback. Again, what we're looking for is price action to get below this upsloping trend line, RSI to head lower, then price action can get back down to at least $124. If we break this upsloping trend line, I'm looking at a downside target of $101. So for me, this would probably get the RSI back to about the 45 or even as low as the 40, and I would be scooping up Robinhood at $100. Right now, I couldn't be a buyer at this level. I'm not necessarily a shorter at this level. So I'm kind of neutral on this. And then you go to the daily time frame and look at the RSI on the daily. You had this nice sell-off, but the RSI is staying really neutral. So what this basically saying is that the buyers and sellers are canceling each other out. This is creating a kind of a bear flag on the intraday time frame. But if we can break this pivot at $146.45, price action is likely to go higher. If price action breaks $141.25, price action is going to go lower. So as far as intraday goes, this isn't really a good setup for me. However, the daily time frame, like I had mentioned, it is an overbought condition, and the RSI is creating some negative divergence. So it's good to see. INTC, oh, I love this chart, you guys. Potential breakout opportunity for INTC. The RSI is staying really strong. What I like to see is the RSI getting below the 70, getting back above, and creating this nice negative RSI divergence. However, when price action consolidates a little bit more with the RSI staying above the 70, for me, that indicates that there's still a lot of buying pressure. And then if you look at the charts where it's at, Intel is still at the lower end. So if we can stay above the $34 level, I think Intel has a much higher upside. We could even get up to the $50 level. And it's really fascinating because usually people use the RSI or relative strength index as an overbought condition when it gets above the 70, which it's true, right? It does say that there are too many buyers in here and the sellers usually come in to the woodworks. However, when you've got a really strong stock and there's lacks volatility, that means that the sellers are staying away from this, and then the RSI can stay at the 70 or above for an extended period of time. Usually what happens when that happens, when the RSI stays above the 70, is price action and the buyers continually push this thing up. And I think that's what's going to happen on INTC based on this chart. So if we can get a break of that downsloping trend line on Intel, then price action is going to around the $50 level. Okay, so for me, my RSI trade of the day is on Intel. So let's go ahead and play that zinger. So I did mention that I'm a bull on Intel right now based on the RSI. However, if it gets above $40 for me, I am looking to day trade Intel. This downsloping trend line, go to the daily time frame on Intel. Go to the daily time frame on Intel. Here we go. look at this down sloping trend line. So it connects this pivot high right here from the 2021 highs and this one to the 2022 highs. Price action gets right back into this level. It's going to get rejected on a technical basis, even with the RSI indicating that we have further upside. So for me, I'm looking for about a 2 to 3% pullback from this $40 pierce, and then I'm exiting this trade. I'm no longer going to be interested, waiting for price action to consolidate right underneath this trend line and then pierce this and get up to $49.55. Ultimately, this and IREN are some of the trades that are ones that I'm looking at. I don't know if I went over IREN. Let's go ahead and go over IREN and let you know why I'm interested in this. So go to the daily time frame. This price action yesterday was substantial. It peaked all the way up to $63 and it was actually up to $65 pre-market, got a 12% dip and then headed higher. This is what I like to see when the RSI is nice and high like this. So this is kind of giving me the same price action that Intel is giving me, where you see that you get moves from $25 all the way up to $61 when the RSI is in overbought conditions. But if you notice, IREN lacked volatility. The RSI lacks volatility. So this indicates that the buyers are still in control. The sellers cannot take over. And so this is going to push IREN even higher. So you've got this beautiful upsloping trend line on IREN. So for me, as long as price action stays above this level, $65, $75, and even upside target of $80 on IREN is where I'm targeting. For me, I'm a big buyer at $46.29. That is a pretty substantial pullback. But as long as, again, you can stay above this upsloping trend line, IREN is going to continue to move higher. Okay, I know I used higher a lot, and that's okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Gare Soloway is going to be going live at 9 o'clock with my trading game plan. The markets are starting to get a little bit more volatile, so he's going to go over a couple different levels for you guys. And that's what I have for you guys. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time in the charts. Guys, have a great rest of your day, and take care.